My name is Ruby Nimirunji Chembo from Kabbalah International Christian School. 2, 1. I have a dream that one day my brothers, sisters, and all the women and men in my society will live as one, as a community. And that one day the hashtag fear men and fear women or fear them will come to an end. I have a dream that one day there will be an end to gender-based violence. As Mark Twain once said, we all know that it is an evil, but we sit down and look at it and ignore it. I have a dream that we shall live as one, and even we shall take note of every kind of violence, because we have all termed gender-based violence as physical, but there is emotional and psychological torture that is happening all around. And I have a dream that all that will come to an end. And despite the progress, all this violence stays there, and we stay normal to it. We behave like it's normal for a man to beat a woman. We behave like it's normal for a woman or man to blackmail the opposite gender, but it is not. And I have a dream that one day all that will come to an end. We have normalized this by victim blaming and shaming. In all this, we are doing it in different ways. The different ways how we body shame other people, the different ways how we talk about how someone looks each and every day. We are violence towards different people, and we have normalized it as the society. The societal attitude that we have to each and everyone, the way we believe someone cannot do something, is something that I believe should one day come to an end, because it is high time it comes. And the first way to start this is by having accountability for everything in what you do. As you are beating that woman, my brother, as you are blackmailing that man, at the end of it all, imagine it was you in their shoes. Be accountable to yourself, because it seems being accountable to others has not worked. So it has to start with you first. Be accountable and imagine, if I were in that person's shoes, how would I feel if I was the one being beaten black and blue? We must break the silence upon this. At times we see something that is wrong and we pretend like it's normal, but it is not. The number of times you've seen someone being beaten and you keep quiet and you pretend like it's normal. Break the silence. Otherwise we shall keep on seeing this demon moving around in our society, and we shall live to it, and it shall soon affect us. At times we behave like we are not affected, but at the end of the day you will be. How will it feel if you are not affected directly, but in the future your child is going through the same? We think of it as just a small thing, but it is quite very big when it's time for you to be affected and it comes to you. We must challenge all the societal norms, all the very many things that look normal in society, and we behave like it is normal. Bring it to an end. Everything that we see that screaming at someone is normal. Is it? It is not. It's something that we have normalized. If you have a problem, there is a better way to sort it out. It's not mandatory for you to blame it on someone else. Challenge every societal norm. But just because society calls you great, that doesn't mean that you are really great. Fight for that which you call right. We must demand justice and accountability in everything we do. For our justice is what we call a right. Every person's rights are abused with all this gender-based violence. So I stand for a place where we shall be free, where we shall live as one to become better in our society. Break all the silence and put action to everything. Speak out and demand change, and we shall see an end. And I believe that my dream will become a reality. For in the end, we'll not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Let us have Kasule Treasure.
My name is Kasule Treasure from St. Charles, Ranga, SS Mubende. I have a dream of living in a nation that is free from the shackles of corruption. Mind you, corruption can be either by an individual or a group of people. The same corruption that I'm talking about has existed in many forms in our society, and that is bribery, bribery, fraud, nepotism, cronyism, fraud, and so forth. It is quite overwhelming that the same acts that are happening in almost all institutions are taken to be normal by all people in Uganda. For instance, when taxi drivers feel like their vehicles are overloaded, they tend to give bribe to the traffic officers so that they let them go. But if I may ask, do you know how many lives that you're putting in danger just because of your greed, just because of the 5K that you're yearning for, and you want to fill your big tummies? The biggest thing that annoys me most is that at times, it is the traffic officers that ask for that money from the drivers. That 5K that you're asking from someone is going to cost a whole lot of life. When it comes to hospitals, these have become corruption fields. For example, last week as I was in Gulu district, a lady who was in labor pains came in with her relative. She was in labor, but she was made to sit down for 40 solid minutes. 40 solid minutes. But when a lady that was very rich came in, she only had to give in 10K so that she was allowed to enter the theater. But the lady who was in labor was left seated in labor pains. In the end, she had to lose the life of her baby and hers too. But where are we heading to? I'm asking a question. Where are we heading to? When it comes to medicine in government hospitals, it is being sold so expensively. But in the first place, it was supposed to be free of charge. But because of your greed, you want us to buy life so expensively, and you think that is the way to go. And we are talking about this trash, and we are taking it to be so normal. Do I need to tell you that corruption has costed our country a lot? It has brought about economic instability, inequality and poverty, and betrayal to trust. But you must not forget, corruption is like a snowball. Once set rolling, it must increase. Once set rolling, it must increase. So it is up to you and I, it is up to him, her, them, and all of us to take a different path. However, we still have hopes to resurrect from this grave, and this is through whistleblowing, taking accountability, strengthening institutions, increasing transparency, implement anti-corruption laws and sensitization. And another thing, you should break silence. Speak out for the 5K that your fellow bribes can cost a whole lot of life because you have decided to keep quiet. And in the end, we shall remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Let us have the next speaker, that is Marishana. Okay, you can start whenever you're ready.
My name is Achirize Merishan, and I'm from Bonikosil Girls Secondary School. I have a dream that I do not dream about every night, but I dream about it every second of my life. I have a dream that I dream about every second of my life. Today, as I was coming to this side, I thought of reading the Word of God. I thought of having a minute for reading a Bible. And I read that God created a man in his image and made him the master of all the creatures, made him the master of all the plants, of all the animals, made him the master of everything. It means that God saw that he has the courage, he has the confidence, he has everything, the responsibility to govern all. But is it so what you're doing? Members in the room, I want to ask you, are you acting as the master of all the creatures or not? Today, you cannot be employed if you're not paying a bribe. You cannot be a public officer if you're not a friend or a family member of the leaders in that company. Today, you cannot be employed if at all you're not known by a great public government figure. But are we acting as the master of all creatures? At the end of it all, it is increasing the unemployment in our country. At the end of it all, people are not receiving the social services intended. At the end of it all, we are creating poverty. But are we the masters of the creatures that God created us to be? I want to tell you that whenever you give a bribe, you're creating more unemployed. I want to tell you that 30% of the public officers, they are not qualified, but it is just because they are known by great public and government figures. It is just because they have paid bribes. But at the end of it all, are we doing our work as the masters of the creatures that God wants us to be? But I cannot stay as voiceless as how people in my community have said. I cannot stay and sit on what is going on. I have come out to say we need to act now. The government needs to implement and acknowledge accountability. The government needs to invest in whistleblowing. The government needs to ensure there is transparency in the provision of the social services. We don't need to act as if something is normal. There is something wrong going on. Today, I want to tell you that Mahatma Gandhi said that you live the word that you wanted to live. You live the word that you want to be. You become the leader that you want to be and wish to see in the word. I and you seated there. I and you seated and hearing to me. I and you. Our duty is to challenge corruption. Our duty is to whistleblow. Our duty is to spot out every corruption act. But I want to leave this question in your mind. Are you the master of creatures? Are you the one whom God wants to be? Are you living a corruption-free nation? Or you're corrupt as how our leaders are? I want to stay voiceless as how people are normalizing it. In the end, we will live. In the end, we shall remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Thank you very much for that speech. Before I call in the next person, the microphone is there to amplify your voice. So just try to keep a little bit of distance, because if you shout, you make it irritating for everyone else to listen to you and pick out what you're saying. So please have a minimal distance. Do not shout. It's going to amplify your voice the way it is. Let us have a war Faith to give us her speech.
A good day to you all. My name is Awar Faith, and I study from St. Lawrence Horizon Campus. I have a dream where a community is not just defined by its progress, no, but rather defined as integrity and a moral compass. A dream where people are not substantiated to inflict an immorality practices. As Mark Twain once said, the fact that one man knows what's right and wrong proves his intellectual superiority, but the fact that he knows that he's doing something wrong proves his moral inferiority. This pronounced statement has a deep meaning that today we see that there is an immorality task that is covering our country and is destroying all our lives, and that is corruption. You see, corruption is a key immoral action that is fit to so many various aspects. There are so many forms: bribery, Nepotism, so many, and it's taking us down. For the fact, instead of us being outraged because of this fact, we are taking it and accepting it as a norm. You see, corruption does not just harm individuals, but it erodes in trust in our institutions. When a police officer accepts a bribery, he is depriving the deserving people of their opportunities and resources. Nepotism, when it rises, it is misshuffling meritocracy and overshadowing all the capable talents that we have in our nation, all because of corruption. You see, corruption has turned a blind eye to all of us. The cycle of corruption has fostered a culture of honesty, but it's turned it into dishonesty and fairness. But what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back and accept all this to reign? No. So what can we do to come back to this immoral inferiority? First, awareness. We must acknowledge that corruption is real. We must acknowledge and accept it. And we must now teach others about corruption. We must spread what corruption truly is to thousands of people so we can spread accountability to thousands of many other people. Number 2, we must build up stronger and more equipment and more law enforcement agencies and laws by supporting initiatives that can help us to promote justice, to promote clarity, to stop corruption from rising and is taking our countries down and is destroying all our lives. See, thousands of times people want to go to school, but the school fees keep on increasing day after day, term after term. One time it's 1.6, the next time it's 8 million. It's taking us down. And we have to change. If we do not change, who will make that change? We have to take a stand and fight for our nation. You see, this immorality task, this corruption, its name seems small, its name seems simple, but it's causing a huge impact in thousands of lives. Thousands and thousands of people are being infected just by this word, corruption. You know, corruption isn't just one thing that you can solve in one day. No. It might take days. It might take weeks. It might take years. But if we do not do it, then who will do it? We have to stand, find all the ways, and help us. If we work together, we remember not the words of our enemies, the silence of our friends.
All right, thank you very much. Let us have Adnan Yusuf.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adnan Hamdan Yusuf from Kira College, Butiki. I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. I have a dream where everybody in the society makes the best choices when it comes to lifestyle. A dream where everybody is happy because they do the right thing. And only will this happen when we make the best of the informed decisions. This isn't any regular day or night dream, but this is my dream. The only way we can make this happen is if you stand together with me so that we can uphold my dream and bring in the idea that everything in society will be at its best. The things we see in society right now, the fact that man is able to think through something and determine which is right and wrong, but still decides to do what is wrong, really puts me down as a person, because if God himself said we are meant to command the creatures, and you decide that you want to do everything but the wrong way. If you just take time and move within Ginger City on the main street, there is a place called Jobless Corner. What would you possibly expect to find around there? That is where you'll get all the drug addicts, you'll get all the prostitutes, and that's where you'll just know that even your nose itself can help you navigate from this point to the other. It's because the smell of tobacco itself toxicates you that you feel like you just want to walk away, however much you are blind. These people here stay around there and they just give it the jobless corner. That basically shows you what drug abuse does to us in society. We as counselors in this society must come together so that we combat all forms of drug abuse. First of all, one thing you know is rehabilitation programs must be put in place. When this is put in place, you're going to give people the idea that they are wanted in society, that they must be healthy so that they can carry on a healthy living lifestyle, so that they can become beneficial to society, and so that they can benefit everyone else. When you give them the idea that you want them to be with you, you give them the understanding of love. That is something we all get from all religions across our societies. You know, when it comes to something called motherly or parental love, a mother's word sticks to someone and really brings in the idea that he or she must change. That's why we bring in the idea that family support must be put in place so that a mother can come and say, my son, my daughter, what you are doing is not right. I expect you to be in school. I expect you to do away with these drugs and do your best so that you can bring about sustainable change in our society. And if all of this is put on ground, the things we expect people to stop doing is what they will stop and expect them to do much better than they are really doing right now. If man can choose from something that is right and wrong and still do the wrong thing, then with guidance, he or she can do the right thing and leave what is wrong. If not, the end will remember. If not, in the end, we remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Thank you very much for that speech. Let us have Nayamba Doreen Melissa.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nayamba Doreen Melissa from Hope Senior School, Nachurebe. A dream that someday this mirror will reflect not just faces, but the truth within our hearts. A truth that challenges us to choose right over wrong, not just because we are being watched, but because it is just. Growing up in Uganda, I remember an incident that changed my understanding of morality. A single mother struggling to feed her children lost her small business just because a corrupt official demanded for a bribe she could not afford. The cries of her children echoed in our neighborhood like an unhindered alarm. Yet the bribe taker went home smiling with his ill-gotten money. The community sighed but said nothing. And in our silence, we normalized her pain. Today, corruption has become a cancer in our society, eating away at the very fabric of our humanity. From inflated government contracts to police officers demanding chai on the roadside, this immoral action has become not shocking but expected. However, the normalization of corruption isn't just the failure of governance, but a betrayal of our moral duty to one another. But let us not despair, or say it with me, let us not despair, because this mirror I hold is also a symbol of hope. It calls us to reflect, to think about our actions and to make a choice. We can mitigate corruption and end its effect, but we need education that teaches integrity as a core value. If schools and parents can teach that true success comes from honesty and hard work, we will raise a generation that rejects corruption. We must strengthen accountability systems. Let the law be a sword against corrupt practices and a shield for the vulnerable. Transparency in public offices cannot be negotiable, and whistleblowers should be celebrated, not silenced. Lastly, as individuals, we must speak up. Silence is complicity, and if we turn away from corruption, we allow it to grow. We must refuse to pay bribes. Say no, we shall never take bribes. Report corrupt officials and use our voices to demand for better governance. In the words of Martin Luther, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we allow corruption to thrive, we are not only compromising our economy, but our humanity. So, like Mark Twain once said, the fact that man knows right from wrong proves his intellectual superiority to other creatures, but the fact that he can do wrong proves his moral inferiority to any creatures that cannot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment that we choose. Do we want to be intellectually superior but morally inferior, or would we rather be intellectually superior and morally superior? The choice is in our hands. In the end, we remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Let us have Elishama Luswata.
My name is Elishama Luswata, student of St. Mary's College, Lugazi. I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. I have a dream of a nation where justice is not for sale. A dream where innocent civilians are not put to the civility of death because of the greed of a few due to corruption. My dream as Elishama, a student standing before you, mourners of one of the victims of this Bingwa we are fighting, may sound like an intruism, but it's real. For I cannot fulfill my dream alone, but we need to stand together. As you see this broomstick, it's alone. It cannot do its work, for it can easily get broken. But when they are together, they are unbreakable. They are a force that is unstoppable, and they can do their work in serving as a tool used for sanitation to sweep. That's how we should come together and fight this bingwa called corruption, so that we should sweep away, as this broom sweep away rubbish. Our friend Sarah, a loving sister who lost her life in a state, when we took her to Kakumiro Medical Hospital, which was a government hospital, where services had to be given freely to civilians and citizens who pay taxes. But the doctors in that hospital prioritized money instead of her life. She had to be treated it was an emergency, but no one minded, for they wanted a bribe to be paid first before them working on her, yet it was a government hospital. This corruption is not just a financial crime, but it's a moral decay. It beats my understanding that even after us hearing about the words of one of the greatest American speakers, Mark Twain, we still continue to do the wrong, yet we know it's not right. She slipped away. She died because we could not helper. It was not because there were no resources or equipment to work on her, but it's because her life stood between the border of money and survival. Brethren, brothers and sisters, shall we keep on losing more lives due to this thing we are fighting? Shall we keep on taking it as a normal thing for people to say words like, that's how things are supposed to be. Everyone does it, and these are becoming shields to this corruption. For rocks must stand together to brave a flood. Shall we hide in our houses because of fear of the dark? No, we shall have to stand firm and fight corruption. First and foremost, it begins with education. Our teachers, epitomes of hope and epitomes of discipline. We must not only have a culture shift with education having only academic excellence, but ethical conduct must be imparted into the students so that we can have leaders who have the virtue of respecting human rights. We should also have transparency and accountability. Citizens, we must stand together to fight this Mbingwa. We should report these corrupt officials. In our leaders also, we should have love for each other, love for that citizen. As you do that corruption, see the effect that it has on that innocent mother, that brother. For this will not keep on going on. For the people will keep on dying and living a miserable life if we do not stop this Bingwa. Corruption has a very big effect on us. But if we do not take these initiatives, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Thank you very much for that speech. Let us have Nsubuga Ramadan.
My name is Nsubuga Ramadan. I'm from Bogo Mixed. My speech begins in 3, 2, 1. I have a dream that one day I'll wake up to the glowing Mama Uganda, not because she's named the Pearl of Africa, but because of the glowing transparency, accountability, and accessibility she holds. I have a dream that one day I'll go to the hospital of Mulago and be worked on, not because I come from a royal family, not because I come from a rich family, but just because I'm a citizen of Uganda. I have a dream that me as a Karamojong student will not have to come from Karamoja to get education, not because the Central has no schools, but because I have the quality education I need in Karamoja. I dream of a transparent Uganda. I dream of an equitable Uganda. I dream of a fair Uganda. I dream of a developed Uganda. Right in this room today, let me see your hand if you dream for your motherland just like I do. My brothers and sisters, I come with a salvation to you. I come with hope to you. This hope starts with the passion for your country, the passion to take action upon corruption, passion, action to fight corruption, it's all what it starts with. My brothers in schools, for so long we have stood on podiums like I am doing today. For so long we've abused corruption, for so long we've talked about the causes and the impacts of corruption. For so long we have talked about corruption.
and then we get back in our sofa sets and sit. But today, right now, right here, is when we stand up and take action to stop corruption. My dear brothers and sisters, standing and sitting right behind there with this phone you see, with that computer, with that camera, with those speakers, we can stop corruption. We can stand and ask for accountability from the government. We can publicize all the government budgets. We can encourage the government to stop corruption. If not encouragement, we force them to do so with just this phone. My brothers and sisters, we've taken what it all means to talk and shout about corruption. Let's also take what it all takes to take action. If it needs whistleblowing, if it needs saying no more to corruption in Mama Uganda in terms of a whistleblowing way, in terms of a striking way, in terms of going on streets, in terms of fighting corruption, let's take all what it means. Let's ask for accountability from the government. My brothers and sisters in Karamoja and many other villages have kept silent for so many times, not because they cannot talk, but just because they have no platform. And we who have the platforms are just keeping silent too. But it all ends now with the action to corruption, and in the end we shall remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Thank you very much. Let us have Kabagambe Morris with his speech.
My name is Kabagambe Morris from Kasing Senior Secondary School, Mubende. My speech starts in 3, 2, and 1. I have a dream that one day I will wake up when immoral action is part of history in Uganda and in the human race. Ladies and gentlemen, Mother Nature gifted us women with the ability to identify right from wrong. But still in the presence of this ability, man is still doing wrong, which is proving his moral inferiority. In our society where we are living, leaders and elders are being disrespected by us. Take a look. In Uganda, the president is just abused anyhowly. Same applies to the king of Uganda. Not only being abused by the older people, but also the young generation in the families. You find a child abusing the parent or even fighting them, or maybe the caretakers where they are living. But do you know what this has brought out? I'm asking you, do you know what this has brought out to different people? People like Lucky Choice who abuse these people like the president or the king have been imprisoned, making their life time to be miserable. Yet it would not have been like that. A lot of children are left out by their parents just because they think they can no longer take in what they are doing. A lot of people are now suffering, making these children maybe lack the human rights they would have had, maybe rights to go and have good education, all that, just because they are no longer being taken care by their parents. Our culture has declined. You cannot tell me that such a supreme leader like a king being abused on TikTok, maybe Facebook, we still have culture in our community. But let me tell you one thing. There is nobody who is standing on the ears of our friends, but it's our silence towards the right thing that is making them do such things. They know the truth within themselves, but it's you and me to make them awakened so that they speak the truth. And this can be done if parents, I'm talking to you and leaders, if we groom up our children, making them know about how to live in a morally upright life. So that when they grow up, they know that I should not abuse a leader, I should not fight my mom or abuse him, or I should not do anything that is not right. And in that way, the future will have people who respect the leaders. The future will have people who do not fight their parents, and we shall have our culture promoted just because the people will know the value of culture. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to see that we can cancel our friends, because people like those that abuse the king or the president have friends. But imagine if those friends come out and cancel them and tell them that what you are doing is wrong. How would it be? These people will not have engaged in such things. But due to the fact that their friends are silent, just saying, hey, these people do not fear doing such things. That's why they end up in prison and their life becoming miserable. Ladies and gentlemen, let us boycott everything that brings out immoral action in that kind of case of disrespecting elders and leaders. If it's a video, just boycott it, bypass it on TikTok. Dislike it, just to send a clear message to those people that what they are doing is wrong. And that is the way we are going to make sure that immoral action in terms of disrespecting elders and leaders gets out of our community. But if we do not do that, listen, in the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maurice, for that speech. Let us have Anyait Sheila with her speech.
Good morning to you all. My name is Anyait Sheila from Serma Christian High School. My speech begins in 3, 2, 1. I have a dream where the truth to Mark Twain's words is finally recognized and accepted. I have a dream that people will understand the distinction between knowledge and wisdom. As much as man loves to compare himself to the simple creatures of the earth, we are only superior to them in terms of our intellect, not our morals. Man stole a gift. He stole a gift from God. The gift to differentiate between good and evil, and yet he still chooses not to use it. Our moral compasses have drifted so far away from the course that we are now swaying with the wind. Have you heard? Have you noticed that the violation of human rights, the exploitation of vulnerable and ignorant populations, especially in the form of human trafficking? Millions of men, women, and children are abducted. This is becoming some sort of modern-day slave trade, and this atrocious act is being accepted. What a shame. These men, women, and children are being subjected to forced labor, sexual exploitation, and inhumane treatment. This horrific crime, in plain sight, we accept it and just choose to keep quiet as an unfortunate reality. I heard of an experience from a friend, one that really sent the message home, of a woman, I think her name was Rachel. She was a survivor. At the age of 16, she was lured away from her family with promises of a glamorous life working as a model. Instead, she was trapped in a foreign country and forced to endure labor, abuse, and exploitation. Her story is just one of many. This is what happens behind closed doors. This is what happens in the hidden corners of society. Yet we still live in a world that knows better and accepts it. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor and never the oppressed. Silence encourages the tormentor and never the tormented. So we can't afford to be silent any longer in the face of such injustice. We, as the Human Rights Watch, urge governments to educate their citizens on the signs of human trafficking and how to report suspicious activities. Not only that, we urge governments to enact stronger laws that target traffickers and their customers. I beseech you now, I beseech you all, I beseech you not to stay silent, because in the end, we remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Thank you very much for that speech. Let us have Rukaya Mutebi to give us her speech.
I'm by name Rukaya Mutebi from Medina Islamic Secondary School. I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. I have a dream that one day everyone will be able to acknowledge the problems that we are facing in the society. That one day everybody will have the ability to stand independently and fight for justice. A dream where children are able to carry their backpacks, run with joy to school, because problems like corruption, climate change, and education inequality no longer exist. This is a dream I have. Indeed, miracles can never happen. But with the power of my dream, I believe we can outstand everything. Because we have the ability to choose between what is right and wrong. But something that affects me so much is that people still decide to take the wrong path. The dream that I carry today is a dream where everyone will be able to stand and fight for corruption to end once and for all. We've all seen the damages that corruption has brought to our world. We've seen the damages that corruption has caused to our children. Education inequality has happened. Not once, not twice. People have died, not once, not twice, because of corruption. But for how long is this going to happen? And indeed, we will remember the enemies, but we will never forget the people who refused to stand by us, the people who remained silent. They had the ability to stand up and fight, the people who had the courage, the people who failed to stand and fight with us in this same fight. This is something that we will always remember. It is up to us to stand and fight for it, because we have the ability to change this once and for all. We have the ability, but how are we going to do it? It is up to us to demand accountability and transparency to our leaders. It is up to us to educate the youth, the children, that corruption is not something that would take us further, but is something that is going to destroy our country and our communities. It is up to us to create strict laws against anyone who is going to decide to take a step ahead and do corruption. But this is only going to happen if we are all willing to stand and fight in this fight. If we are all willing to stand and fight in this fight. For how long are people going to remain silent? For how long are we going to see things getting damaged every single day? And yes, yet people are out there who have the capability to stand and fight. It is up to us to make a gathering, to educate our children, to educate people around the world that corruption is doing nothing but ending us. Corruption is doing nothing but ending us. But for how long? It is up to us to stand and demand for our rights, demand for accountability, transparency. It is up to us to educate our children. We will have a world where people are able to stand independently and speak for themselves. A world where children are able to carry their backpacks and access quality education, even in places like Karamoja, because corruption will be a myth. In the end, will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silent of our friends.
All right, thank you very much for that speech. Let us have Hussein Bukenya to summarize this round for us.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Hussein Bukenya from Medina Islamic Secondary School in Sanji. I begin my speech in pain, P-A-I-N. I have a dream that makes me shiver whenever I get it. A dream that my mother will celebrate my triumph and regrets turned into prosperity. A dream that one day the children of my country shall suffer not the effects of drug abuse like I did. Drug abuse. When I was a little boy, I got friends whom I took to be my colleagues. Those who taught me that being with the bro code is something that will make me benefit. But I was lied. I was lied by them. I ended up joining the drug gang, selling drugs in my community. It became a normal thing to the extent that I became a rapist. Not one, not two, not three, but 5 girls raped just by me. I became a killer. We killed a mother just because drugs were dipping up in my head. I became a harsh person that even robbery was just a dream. Bro, stand and go rob, that's something I did. But one person did not lose hope from me, and that's my mother. The greatest gift she gave me, that she believed in me. She told me, you show me your friends, you show me the people you walk with, and I will change you forever. It's the same thing. I changed because she told me. She made the community teach me. She took me in, and it's what I'm here to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we have normalized drug abuse like it's common. We have Nkwacho festival. We have different things. But hey, let them not turn like me. If Mark Twain told us that people doing wrong is making us inferior, it's time for us to become superior. I call upon the government. Let's put up rehabilitation centers for the drugly infected. I was infected, but I was rehabilitated. And now I stand sweating, looking for my handkerchief, shivering to tell those people who I was with taking drugs that they can change. Dear governments, let us ban drugs from our society. Ban drugs from our country. Put up law enforcement against the drug sellers and stop kids from becoming mad and dancing weirdly on streets so that mothers can also celebrate for their children's triumphs. Let us put harsh laws against the drug sellers and drug keepers and cartels and stop even the smugglers, because I had them as my friends. Drugs were my friends, but the silence that they made me face in the down-facing anxiety made me regret. If we do all this, we'll have development. The youth will become useful, not sitting down there and regretting what they are supposed to do, but helping to develop our community. If we do all this, dear government, we can become memorable people in the society and develop it and make our society prosper and triumph. I have a dream that I want to share with you, because if you do with my dream, my mom shall smile and say, my son was useful enough. Your mom too shall smile and know that my son did not do drugs, because in the end, we'll remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that speech. A bigger round of applause for everyone who participated in this particular round. We're in the quarterfinals, room 1, and after this, we'll have to go to the semifinals, and then thereafter the finals. Let us note that in each room, which are 4, we're only going to be breaking the top 5 speakers in each room to proceed to the semifinals. All the best to our speakers, and since the semifinals round is a prepared round, you can go and start preparing for the semifinals. All the best.